on. Cool. All right. Nice to
Yep,
meet you. Where are you
you too.
located?
I'm in Palm Coast, Florida.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, I'm in the middle of the map. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into your life of being a writer and all of the stories that you put out into the world. But before we do that, I want to know 4 years ago with this pandemic, we were trying to wrap our heads around it, how long it's
Yeah.
going to last, how are we going to get through it? How did you get through that time period and how did it change the way that you do things now?
Well, I come from a medical world, so I was knee deep in the pandemic. For those 2 years, it took pretty much out of all of us. Um, I couldn't, I don't think the average layperson understands honestly what the medical profession went through. I ran two huge primary care facilities for the hospital back in Danbury, Connecticut. And one of my sites was the site for people to be able to come in that had to get seen. You couldn't just do, you couldn't just do online things. And we took care of babies, and those babies had to be seen. So yeah, that I will tell you that that 2 years changed me personally, because it was a devastating time for most of us. We lost so many people.
Did you get out of it after that?
Yeah, I retired this October. I'll be retired 2 years.
Gotcha.
I was with my organization for almost 31 years.
Okay.
So
So that
yeah.
that leads me to my next question. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and you had to
Mhm.
explain to kids what you did before retirement and what you're doing now, how would you explain that?
Oh, wow. What I did before retirement, I was a workaholic. I ran medical centers. My life was surrounded with my medical centers, my doctors, my patients. I had very close relationships with so many people. Um, and so I would tell that third grader, when you go to your doctor and the nurse comes in the room, and I would bring myself to their level when they're going to the doctor. That was my world. Now I'm retired and I'm no longer a workaholic. So it did take time to come from 200 miles an hour down to quiet.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing my writing, which is something I've always had a dream about doing. And now I'm actually doing it.
Okay,
So go
uh,
ahead.
so when you were in the third grade, what was your dream? Was it always to be a writer?
Um, I started thinking at a young age that I'd like to be a writer because I was always an avid reader. Even in the third grade, when you go and they give you that little library card and you can take books out, always a reader. As I got a little older, I always had this thought in the back of my head that, gee, wouldn't it be nice to write a book? Because I read them all the time. And I actually started my book that I just published 20 years ago, and it got kind of shoved in a drawer. And when I moved down here, my older son said, just get the file out and finish it. And it took me a year and a half, and now the book is out. So this is my first accomplishment, my internal personal dream that I wanted to write a book.
So what was the first book that you ever read that made you want to read more? What was the gateway book for you?
Oh gosh.
Or one of
I
the
mean,
first?
well, if you want to go way back when, it was Double Dating. It was some series of books in the third and the fourth grade. Um, as I got a little bit older, there's a few other books. Cain and Abel is one of them that really touched me big time. Um, and then, your regular, some of the Stephen King books I loved, even though I don't write like that. A lot of love stories, family saga stories I actually enjoyed. And so I would kind of stick with that. And I like espionage and things of that nature. I think the only thing that I'm not into is science fiction, unless you
Okay.
consider Stephen King to be sort of science fiction.
Yeah, yeah. So talk to me a little bit, give everybody a taste of what Full Circle is all about.
Okay, so Full Circle, there's my poster behind. My husband
Yes.
took my book and he made it into a poster for me.
Nice.
Full Circle is really the story of first love of a young girl and what she goes through in her life. It is a 40-year love story. So it really talks about a very young Kate who falls in love at 16. And of course, it's all pie in the sky back then. What do we know at 16 to have these emotions? And without really delving into the story, Kate has a terrible thing happen to her and that young love. And it takes her years to be able to process and literally move forward, to trust again and to fall in love again. And what she goes through throughout that first stages of her life back then. And I'm in the medical field, so I'm a big proponent on mental health and getting help when you need it. And so all of those kinds of thoughts and things are tied into the book as Kate moves through her life. And it starts at 16, but it brings her all the way up to when she's retiring and what happens to her in between. So it's a love story, but it's not a bubblegum love story like happily ever after. And it moves quickly as the chapters keep moving with it.
So, who's been a hero for you in your life?
Oh, a hero. I have an uncle who's a hero for me. He's always been there for me when I've needed to sit and talk. Um, uh, I have two friends that are in my life for over 50 years. Um, I consider them in my life to be the heroes of my life because you can reach out to them anytime, anywhere, and they'll always be there as I would be for them. Um, Heroes, if you're talking about anybody famous, no, I have none because famous people are famous people. They have nothing to do with my life. One of my biggest heroes is a therapist that I had many, many years ago. Like I said, mental health is a big thing for me. If you're running into trouble, find someone to talk to. She really helped reshape me way back when in my younger years to help me get on my feet again and to be the strong person. Sometimes I think I'm too strong, but she helped me to navigate a time when I needed some real help. So if you want to say a hero, I would say she was probably front and center for me.
So, what was the motivation for you to do the work in the medical field for all those years? What got you up? What got you motivated? And even now to write, what is that daily motivation for you?
Well, the medical field is a medical field. I always had a love of it. And I started off in clinical, and as I was moving up through my jobs, one of my doctors gave me a an option to come out of the back clinical area and take over the whole practice. And so I opted to do that because I knew I could go further. And then when Regan and I moved to Connecticut, the hospital offered me a position and I grew in the administrative world way up. And I loved it because I loved helping reshape policies and procedures. But I also had a big love of my patients because I'm used to that doctor office kind of a world. And so, like I said, I wasn't workaholic. Sometimes I worked 7 days a week. And I was just, I love to just see my patients get better or not get better. I would get involved with sometimes with their life and their families. And I think that also helped during the pandemic that a lot of my patients knew they could reach out to cry or whatever, because we lost so many people. And I made myself available to every single one of them. And now with writing, it's the same thing. I have this love of writing. I feel like with the book, I had so much to say and doing all that and putting it together. And I've now started my second book, and it's the same thing. I have all these papers all over because that book I started 15 years ago, and I'm just putting my timelines together, and I love the research piece of it. So, so yeah, I'm just kind of getting myself back into sitting at my desk for an hour or two a day. And my husband takes the dogs and moves them out of my way. And I just like letting my mind kind of wander.
Yeah.
So it's been fun.
Yeah, for sure. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Um, Two things. Be true to who you are. Don't let somebody else change you because that's what they think you should be. That's huge. I learned that the hard way. Um, and if you want to do something, no matter how daunting it may seem, like writing a book and publishing it, just do it. What's the worst that can happen is that you've done something for yourself. And whether it's a successful book or not, for me, it's the fact that I wrote a book and it's in my hand and people are reading it. And to me, that's this dream that I had for so many years. That dream came true. And I'm going to see what I can do with it moving forward. You
So
got to
if
try.
you, yeah, for sure. So if you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've collected along the way. What advice would you impart and would she listen?
Um, I think the 18-year-old me, not quite sure if I would listen to myself, but I would tell, if I could go back and tell that 18-year-old, you're going to struggle. I know it, but it's all going to be okay in the end. And I don't mean the end when you're dying. I just mean in your future. It's going to be okay, but it's a lot of work. And you have to put the work in order. Life is hard. Life is not easy. And I think I'm from that generation where you work hard and you get things when you work hard, but you got to put that work in. So I would definitely tell my 18-year-old self, I know things are going to be rough for you, but you're going to take one day at a time and it's going to work out. Trust me. So, but it takes a lot. It's a lot of emotion.
So at the end of the day, when you look back on everything you've done and accomplished, what are you the proudest of?
The proudest that I am right now is being a wife of 41 years and my two boys. They mean everything to me. And being a workaholic, sometimes they all got put on the back burner because I'd be sitting down for family something and I'd get that call and I'd have to run to the hospital. But my biggest accomplishment is my family, first and foremost. I'm proud of the work I've done in the medical field. I have a lot of citations and letters and everything else, and that's all well and good. But I'm proud of the work I personally did and people's lives that I touched. And now my book. I'm proud of myself that no matter what happens, I had a dream. I invested in myself now after work's done, and I finished the book. And that's a huge accomplishment for me, certainly.
Yeah. So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, all of your readers, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm that Jewish mom that tries not to ask the questions to my boys. It should be one question, but a Jewish mom will ask 20. My perception of myself is that I cry at commercials. There's always a box of tissues near me. I have a very soft side to me, but I've learned over the years that I'm a very strong woman. And like I joked, I think I'm too strong, but that's just from where I came from to where I am now. And most people that are in my life, they're in my life for a long time. And and close bonds to me mean everything. You
Yeah.
could have 50 friends, but really only 5 of them are more like family that you would trust the world in them. So I'm kind of guarded with that. It takes a lot to allow you to come into that inner circle because trust is something you have to earn. Like I have to earn with other people as well.
So if anyone wants to pick up Full Circle, learn more about you, reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
So you can go right on Amazon. That's mostly where people go. I mean, it's on Goodreads and a few other, but it's usually Amazon. And if you just type in Full Circle and then you start to put my name, because there's 100 other books called Full Circle, it's right there. And there's some excerpts and whatever on the book. If you're scrolling down once you click into it. I do have a Facebook account, so if people wanted to reach out to me, they can do it. Susan J. Dufner -author, and my publisher's been putting little excerpts and things of the nature of the book onto there.
Yeah.
And it's all new to me. It's only been 3 months.
Right on. What a
Yep.
great story. It's never too late. Thank you,
Nope.
Susan, for your story. Thank you for your
Thank
time
you.
and best of luck with the book.
Thank you so much. I appreciate speaking with you.
Thank you. Take care.